Manchester City charged, potential points deduction or even expulsion from the Premier League. Leeds sack Jesse Marsch, and we're going to get into all the weekend results, every single one here on Tariq Talks in this Premier League review show. Let's get into it, people. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tariq Talks, another Premier League show, but this time it's a Premier League review show. And I thought, you know what? Usually on Monday nights we do the Arsenal show, but because we can't get certain guests in, and my co-host, my brother Wilf, he's not available tonight, and also just to do with plenty of the, with the news that's been breaking out today, so much news and so big news at that. The big topic that we're all talking about, that's on everybody's lips: Manchester City, Leeds sacking Jesse Marsch, the Premier League having absolutely really kicked off with a bang with this weekend, and twists and turns from the start to finish. We'll get into each right now and discuss them all, and we'll even potentially have more guests on the show. But guys, I want to be here interacting with you live in the comments first of all, and you guys are the best, and I'm really looking forward to doing it right now with you. So big up my brother Peeny in the place. Your defense is in trouble. Tears in the room. Hey, I love it, man. Peony, thanks for dashing it in here. I had to reply just before I start the stream and let you know that I was going to sing it out. But I hope you're keeping good, Peony. I hope you had a good weekend and a good start to the week. As it is Monday here in the UK. As I'm recording this and as we're doing it live, and just as intended, Peony saying, big up yourself, Amy. Hope you're doing good, and it's nice seeing you in here again. Good afternoon from USA. Hope you're keeping well, Amy. And what part of the US? Let us know. I'm intrigued, and I hope it's okay, and I hope the weather's good by you as well. And of course, big up my brother Pax in the building. Liverpool in the mud, not a surprise. They lost to Wolves, and not just Liverpool, but Manchester City, of course, in the mud also. But before we get into it, people, we do have to talk about, and it's not football related, but it's certainly related to life and what we're all here right now. And none of us are robots yet, so it's important to talk about these issues. And our prayers goes out to the people of Turkey and Syria, given this natural disaster that's happened, and an earthquake that has already killed thousands of people that's been announced, and maybe many more, unfortunately. And first of all, just want to send my condolences out to those people that are affected, and the families and the trauma that this has caused. Guys, it's horrible. It is disgusting, and it just shows you that tomorrow is not promised. We always get reminders of these things in life, and we think about. And guys, we do all go out and all have our own struggles in life, and they are for a lot of us, and we all go through times where they do affect us very deep, and they are very difficult to handle and cope with at points. But when you see certain things like this, it is a gentle reminder, and something that should remind you, and something that should prick you in almost to thinking and how grateful we should be certain things in our life, and just being here, waking up every day and having our family, and being able to breathe and have a roof over our head, and so much more. And there are a lot of issues that we struggle with, but this right here, this has really rocked me, and it's made me think about a lot of things. And when I was talking about it with Mom earlier on, it was quite emotional. Watching some of the scenes, and it is really sad. And we do put our prayers out for those who are still under the rubble that can be saved. We pray that hopefully that they will be found, and that God will keep his hand upon them and protect them. And most of all, and send our condolences out to those who are affected, and that they'll be able to find peace and shelter very soon, and comfort. So yeah, it is heartbreaking. So, and as Peony saying here, yep, so devastating. Yeah, I know that feeling with a broken heart and feel like crap, but then this happens and makes you think it makes you rethink priorities 100%. I agree completely. And yeah, and it's not to belittle any of the things that we go through, but it is something that's a reminder that we are still blessed, and even when we go through difficult moments and times and even days in life, that we still have a lot of things to be grateful for and thankful. So definitely do agree there. And yeah, there was an earthquake in Turkey. Rich, big up yourself. But if anyone else hasn't heard about it, there was a earthquake in Turkey and Syria. It's important to mention that has affected and unfortunately thousands of lives have been lost already, and it's horrendous weather out there at the moment, and snowing in I didn't even know it snowed in those places, and I'm not sure it definitely doesn't happen on a regular basis. But yeah, a lot of lives have been lost through natural disaster, and I pray that peace and that calm, and there'll be calmness in the weather, and that they'll be protected and find comfort eventually. Big up yourself, Amy. So he's in the East Coast, mid 50 in degree. Wow, in the East Coast. So yeah, hey, on the East Coast, it's your days, you're further into your day than those on the West. And usually, depending on if you're in down south or in the Midwest, not Midwest, in the mid part of the country, it can be quite cooler. If you're down south, it's obviously a lot warmer. Yeah, down there near Florida and whatnot. But if you are up in the north near Philadelphia or New York, hey, you still the weather's. What's the weather like? Let us know. Is it rain? You've let us know about the temperature there, but yeah, we'll see, people. But guys, that's important. I heard they're looking for Atsu as well, and that news just broke that according, and I saw this on Twitter on Footy Accumulator, was that he has been found and that he's alive. He's struggling. He's had difficulty breathing, so most likely affecting the rib area and the lungs, but he is alive and being on his way to hospital. But guys, let's so yeah, I hope you're keeping well, people, and I'm glad that you're in here tuning in. And as we're 7 minutes in, we had to talk about those things first, those important matters. And now another one. Well, it's not as important as what we just spoke about, but important in the terms of football, and that is Manchester City are being charged by the Premier League with breaking financial rules. Man City hit with more than 100 charges of breaching financial rules by the Premier League over a 9-year period. The possible sanctions, if found proven, include points deductions or even expulsion from the league. This is certainly one of the biggest pieces of news in football that we've seen or I've heard of in a long time, because yes, we had Manchester City, then there was in threat, and they were being threatened and being removed and expelled, I guess, from the Champions League, of course, with their UEFA breaches, but they managed to get out of that. The important thing to note with this one is that there is no case to appeal. They can't appeal because it is handled by the Premier League, and they spent 4 years investigating on this in over a 9-year period, trying to make sure that I'm hoping that they've tried to make sure that it's bulletproof in terms of this case, so that they have real grounds to charge Manchester City and put them, in under, and hopefully we don't see these charges dropped, and that there will be an outcome from it. It's going to be massive. It's going to be groundbreaking for the Premier League if this does happen, given that we've not seen anything like this before. How long have we seen the Premier League being taken the mick of in terms of a financial perspective? Look what we've just seen from Chelsea in the recent window, not breaking, but finding every loophole around to get their transfers through. No one's been taking it seriously, and even our clubs, we look at Manchester City and try to aspire to be like them. A lot of people do. And there's a minority, I'd say, of people out there who don't want to behave like Manchester City, and it may affect them in terms of winning trophies and whatnot. But the integrity part and the honesty and the reason why football is a working man's game is so important, that and they uphold those values and see them as importance. And especially if you're a fan of like the huge clubs that we've got in the Premier League, like Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, just to name a few. Everton, they're a part of it as well, and even Wolves and Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest, who have huge heritage behind them and a lot of history and a lot of morals and class. I'd say a lot of them uphold. And today, obviously, being a massive and important day for Manchester United fans in 1958 with the Munich air disaster. And those are the reasons why we are so attached to football and why it is so important to a lot of people's lives and how much it can impact and the experiences that we feel, of course, just not just off the pitch. And if we feel that this is being manufactured and cheated against, this could really put the hammer on the Premier League if Manchester City are proven guilty in this, and if they do get that punishment. I believe it has to be a maximum punishment, guys. I really do. I think this does have to be a maximum punishment because they need. It's a shame because when I'm talking about this, I'm not talking to Manchester City fans in general because the fans, they don't have a say in all of this and they have no control. Whether they want it or they don't have any control. We've seen, just to look across the road where Manchester United fans have been run and owned by horrendous owners who don't care about the club. And they've protested and tried to do as much as they can to get the Glazers out, but they have no control over that because it's the Glazers who own the club at the end of the day. And they feel like they're finally breaking ground there, but that's not because of, unfortunately, it's not because of what Manchester United fans want. It's more to do with the Glazers running out of money for their horrendous mismanagement of the club. But that just shows that fans are powerless and they're the ones who are really going to suffer. But you have to make an example of this. I don't want to see this anymore. I like the way what we've grown up on in football I've grown up on anyway, is the organic nature of the game. Of course, there's corruption in everything, and there's things that shouldn't have been done. And if you look even at Arsenal's history in terms of how we managed to stay in the league and we weren't, and how we got into the first division and we haven't been relegated since, there's things that are black markers, of course. But if something like this has been completely generated through money and it's illegal, which is what it's proven to be, they need to make an example of this, the Premier League. And I find it ironic that it is happening just before the independent regulators are looking to come in and have their say. It is something that I definitely think needs to be looked at a lot and needs to be taken very seriously. And if they don't want other clubs to behave in a proper way and abide by these, they're going to need to take over and do it. So yeah, man, it's massive. I want to hear what you guys are saying, and they need to make a statement with this, a serious one. I think so. I want to see what you guys are saying in the chat because we've got plenty of thoughts in on this right here. And I appreciate you all for joining in. And let's have a look. I'm going to scroll from here, from the top. Vibe saying Ole Gunnar is a PL winning manager. Super Teta auto beating this City, doing a super doping. Exactly. It's so true. And the achievements, and of course, I know you're not going to like this, but of Liverpool, and they've loved how they've done it in the right way. And we've kind of taken a mick out of them. Yeah, you get a trophy for doing it in the right way and whatnot. And, out of banter. But how they've been run, it looks to have been in the right way indeed, and it must be really frustrating for them because they had tremendous achievements and 97, 99 points and still weren't able to beat a Manchester City side. Crazy. And get close and overtake them when they should have. And when you're having a look at it now, it is a super doping team. And we've also got Ed in here. I think he's here. Are you ready, my bro? How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad. I was getting everything set up on my phone because I genuinely couldn't be bothered to set up the computer.
Nah, that's fine, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry at all. As I'm just going to get
the
comment.
You broke the news. You broke the news to me about that disaster. I didn't know about that. So yeah, you're bringing public service announcements as well.
Oh yeah. Oh no way. But yeah, it's sad news, unfortunately, in what's happened. So yeah, just prayers out for those in Turkey and Syria in regards to that there. But yeah, I'm just going to run through the comments a little bit, and then we'll hear your thoughts on it as well, bro. The Manchester City thing, because I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts about that as well. Let's have a look into here. Big up yourself, Ferbs. Hope you're keeping good. Blessings and love, people. Hope you're keeping well. Vibes. None of us are shocked by this. They'll get away with it again. You think? I don't know, man. I feel like they might. I feel like they might not. If the Premier League are really gonna make a statement, they should do. Man City will stop new money doing the same thing. So I'm really happy about this indeed, and set a precedent for those like Newcastle and Chelsea to come. And as Peony saying their vibes, I don't think they will this time. It really seems to be a strong case. I'm with you there, Peony. I won't be surprised if it does go to court and resolving it underneath the table. There's always the possibility of that, Amy. I hope not. I really do, because it sets up. Yeah, we'll talk. I think I'll let Ed speak upon that later if that is a possibility. This is why Arsenal must be respected when we walk away from deals once the money gets silly, aka Muddy Rick. Yeah, exactly. Spot on, Peony. Spot on. Big up yourself, Moss in the place. Hope you're keeping good. City for relegation, says Rich, by the looks of it. We do things the right ways, and everyone in Arsenal, Dom, that we're always praising City and Chelsea and wanting to need to be them. The need to wash their hands out with soap now. Indeed. Don't put the hammer on nothing, pause, says Ferbs. Big up the GOAT CM. Big up CM in the place as well. Got a few more comments here. Let's get through a few more and then hear Ed's thoughts. Man City should go to English League 2 or even the Mexican League for 2 years if charged for everything. Definitely should go to League 2, not Championship. They should be expelled. Look what's happened. The punish clubs for administration, which is also a financial issue, and they should be punished for breaking these rules and financial doping too. I agree with you there. Possibly even lower than the professional pyramid, if they really do want to make an example as well. But before we get into everyone else's thoughts on this, we've got so much comments. Big up to each and every one of you locked in right here. But hope you're keeping good, Ed. Your thoughts on this Manchester City situation? Do you think that they will face their punishment and the right punishment, or as Amy says, that money talks at the end of the day? What do you think, Will?
Money talks, but does the Premier League need more money right now? It's a rich business at the best of times, and we've just seen over in Italy that the biggest club over there has just taken a huge points hit, and not for the first time, for financial irregularities. So maybe we should be a little buoyed by that. Maybe there'll be some courage taken from the fact that a big league like the Serie A is taking action against not just the biggest team, but it's like taking action against Real Madrid or Barcelona in La Liga, isn't it? Juventus is huge. The best thing about the Premier League is we do have more than one team that will be dominating the top of the league. The cynic in you always thinks that it's going to be, money talks, and I think it was described as money passing under the table. But do the Premier League need money, is what I guess is the counter-argument, playing devil's advocate to that. But it doesn't feel right, does it, what they've been doing? It's been a 4-year investigation into it, so it seems a bit silly for a 4-year investigation to end with just a fine, if that makes sense. Because if you're talking about financial irregularities that will directly affect what happens on the pitch, then if there's any proof of those irregularities giving them an advantage on the pitch, well, that's not fair on the other 19 teams in the Premier League, is it? So something needs to happen to right that wrong.
Definitely. I agree with you there, bro. And you're absolutely 100% correct by saying that this is a 4-year investigation that's been taken into it. And when they are taking that long, I feel they are trying to make everything as bulletproof as possible and really trying to build and gain as much evidence as they can, because they could have just immediately try to punish them with less charges and with less research into it and how they have broken and how they've breached these rules. Because if you have seen the article or pieces of the article from Martin Ziegler, it is quite interesting how it's very case in point how they've broken it, which rule and the letter, you know how it is, bro, in terms of the regulations and how they're listed out. And it's quite interesting to see how they really structured it and how it's very clear how they've done it. Manchester City are angered, of course they're going to be, and they're already trying to deflect from this, because a lot of Manchester City's anger is coming from that journalists found out before them, and I'm thinking, well, shouldn't you be angry or in terms of the Premier League charging you and you're not being aware of this? But they are really trying to deflect at the moment, and you know, we see managers do it in press conferences for whatever reason. We've known, and we're not even in the know as much as football fans. We only see things from the outside perspective, but we saw the smoke, and the fire is now being exposed with Manchester City. So this has been discussed, and we've also almost turned a blind eye to it as well, Ed. And that's the horrible part, because that's what sports washing is meant to do for you. That's what it's meant to do, is make you become desensitized to it and just expect, oh, you know what, they're going to get away with it. That's fine. And if they get away with it, yeah, it's not good, but let's join them. That's not how you are meant to go in life. And you know, and there's been many great people in life who have stood against the narrative and the popular opinion, or you know, the oppression in terms of this. And that's what it is, oppression in terms of their money and finances, and stopping other teams from achieving because of basically illegal ways of doing it and in practice, for example. So Manchester City, I'm going to ask you now this, bro. In terms of the time scale, where do you think it can be soon, because they have done so long into investigating it, that we can expect to see punishment within this season, or do you most likely see it within the next season or the next two?
Yeah, it's not going to be this season, is it? I mean, Gooners, that's not going to be great hearing for you, because it would be nice if they, you know, lost 10 points and made things better for you guys at the top of the table. But no, because even if the Premier League were to give them a sanction, you know, now Man City will appeal it, even if it's just to get this season over with and push for the title. So no, I don't think they would. Legal things never move very quickly, do they? And the Premier League are not going to be able to dock Man City points, you know, by this time next month or something, are they? There's going to be due process. I mean, how many times have you seen teams start with minus X points at the start of a season? It's because it has to have its biggest effect. You know, I guess from everyone's point of view, even the guilty perpetrators from the point of view of the start of the season would be the fairest result, wouldn't it? Because I'd imagine, you know, say Man City were top of the league by 12 points right now, and they had a 15-point deduction. Despite all of the things we've just talked about, and I agree all of it is wrong, that doesn't necessarily seem very fair. So I would think that it would need to be at the start of the season. But of course, Man City are going to probably pay for all the best lawyers to fight their cases and disprove or try and lessen the sanctions. So I'd imagine that will not be a quick process, and you're probably talking next season. It will need to be at the start of a season, realistically, won't it, for everyone to know where the lay of the land, even the guilty party. So I would hazard a guess, and this is a complete guess, that it would be at the start of a season.
Yeah, I hear that, man. And do you know what? I kind of agree. And I'm all right with it, you know, as an Arsenal fan, because at least there won't be no asterisks next to our name when if we do win the league, and if we do win it, I mean, we win it. It kind of puts an asterisk in terms of, wow, we've done it against a super doping team, and a team that has been breaking the rules and breaching it for a number of years, and we beat them fair and square without a points deduction. So there's a little bit in me that's kind of like, I'm confident enough in terms of how this Arsenal team is and how Manchester City are today, basically, that we can still go ahead and beat them without a points deduction. And I might actually prefer it Maybe at the end of the season, if it looks different, then you can do that. You can add it on. But yeah, for now, I'm totally fine with it. So I hear that indeed. Let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the comments as well, because we've got plenty of you in here too. So really appreciate you all. Smash that like button if you haven't done so already, and big up to each and every one of you that's locked in right now. Let's go over into here and let's say our vibe saying Arsenal about to firmly put City in the mud next week. Yeah, I wonder if that will make unsettle a few of the players. Do you think it might, Ed, and the staff at City?
You'd assume so, because if there's ever any concern over your workplace, even if it's a well-run, technically very rich place, you are going to be concerned. I guess this is still their job, this is still their livelihoods, and it's going to affect backroom staff that probably aren't on the millions that the players are in particular. So there will be repercussions. We've seen that. How many times have we seen? I know Matt's in the comments. I mean, Everton, all it took was someone to sort of get the shit righted again, that everyone gets behind them. That is the beauty of football, isn't it? And I think when you don't have that, everyone pulling in the same direction, or being able to just concentrate on the football, there's a very big chance that it will have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, exactly. And Amy saying here, will it happen to Chelsea since they have spent over the limit in a past transfer window?
We don't have enough time for me to rant. I can't. Chelsea and their horrible ways since 2005 has been a bugbear of mine for most of my, adult life, with how they came in and ruined football in 2005, and they've been ruining football ever since.
Yeah. But do you know what, bro? This is where I think they could get done with this, because why Man City got away with the away for one, and what was proven to be the biggest factor was the time gap between them getting charged and what it was being charged for and what year, and then them actually being taken place, and that's why Cass was able to dismiss it. In that sense, the Premier League have made this very difficult. There's no time gap that they have to abide by, so this could go back in 2005. Think about it: Man City have been taken back in 2009 in this in this period. So the Premier League, if they are really putting the hammer on this, they could look as far back as Chelsea, and you don't even need to go that far back with some of their recent acquisitions and dodginess. They've already been
about 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, exactly that. They already received a transfer ban for that Bertrand Traore and Gael Kakuta deal in terms of how they brought them in, and it was basically human trafficking in terms of what they did and that sounds extreme, but it was classed as that, and that's why they did have a transfer ban and why they were punished in terms of how they recruited those players.
And both of those players set the world on fire, didn't they?
Exactly that there. And Chelsea, in terms of how they're bringing in this young talent and what they're doing, and I'm sure there is of course we know that, of course, there's corruption in it in terms of backhand payments, parent payments and whatnot, and the Premier League will be able to find this out. They've got the resources, and as you said earlier, bro, they've got the money to find out themselves. So the Premier League, they don't need the money. They've already amassed so much of it.
And just quickly on that, because I know you want to move on, but I agree. I've just read some of the comments in the chat, and I know you'll get to them. Points deduction is the only way to actually affect the clubs such as Chelsea and Man City going forward, because they can and will just pay the fines. They can and will just pay whatever they need to get this brushed under the carpet. The only thing that's ever going to stop it is a points deduction, where all of a sudden they're not in the Champions League because they've lost 15 points, or they're scrabbling around for Europa League and getting some money from the Europa League because they were 12 points down. It's the only way to stop it.
Exactly that. It is true. Minimum points deduction, bro. I think it has to be. You can't do no fines and a transfer ban. I don't even think that's worth it. It has to hit them in the belly and where it really hurts for them, and that is and Chelsea already found a way around the transfer ban with getting a loan player in or making a signing before the window and stuff. And there's too many loopholes around it. So the only way to hurt them is with a points deduction at the very minimum. And with over 100 of them, you could see a potential relegation as well. I'm not too sure about the titles being stripped. I don't know if they will do that. I mean, it could be. That's a possibility. You can't rule it out at the very least, but yeah, it's just I think that's the way to do it in terms of that in relegation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed. Were United? I mean, not United. Juventus, did they have their title stripped?
Yeah, they did, didn't they? They had them taken off them. I think Inter won one, didn't they? And someone else picked one up. I think for the two. I think did they lose two? That's just from memory, but I think they did lose them. I think they might have fought to have them back.
Yeah. And
whether or not, but I think at the time they did lose them. And now I'm thinking that means Wolves should have had European football 2 seasons running because we lost out because Man City. So I want my European away day.
I want my Champions League from last season. That's what I want. Because we'd have finished 4th if Man City weren't in that. So yeah, big up everyone that's locked in here, locked and loaded in the chat as well. Hope you're keeping good. And I'm just trying to pick out some other comments that's spoken about City. Sorry if I miss them. We've got so many, and I'm just trying to, move the conversation forward as well at the same time. They're always banging on about Main Road. Yeah, it's true. Time to live them days. They keep talking about how it was great at that time as well, and they kind of miss it. They might be straight back to it there as well soon. So we'll wait and see. Killing the brand, Edmund. Serie A has never recovered from the scandals. Yeah, it's true. They haven't done, but it also happened. I think the Premier League, because it's attracted so much interest as well, Moss, like it won't. I think it will affect the brand in terms of how fans speak about it and whatnot, but people are still tuning in because the reason why it's so good is because we're able to bring in the best players, the best managers because of certain things like the money and Arsenal.
And I think just on that, I think the brand for the Premier League is the fact that Everton can be down on their luck and beat Arsenal, and Wolves can be 17th and beat Liverpool. That's the brand. Serie A, even in the 90s, and Brush, if you're still in here, I know you could talk forever on the players that played in the 90s. They still didn't really have that. They had every now and again a Palmer would be all right for a bit. Fiorentina would have Batistuta for a couple of seasons. But the Premier League's brand, I think, could very much outlive a couple of scandals, personally.
Exactly. Yeah, you are right. Indeed. This time, City have to lose the argument versus UEFA and the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Hey, they can't even go to CAS with that, Kendall. They can't indeed, because the Premier League have made sure that they can't in that sense. Big up yourself, Brush, who's in here as well. Serie A used to be right up there with the Prem. How take 4 years when UEFA already found guilty? Do they not share info? We all knew this was happening. Exactly. And Chelsea got hit by UEFA, and UEFA seemed a lot easier to get by. And Chelsea were hit with the transfer ban. So I'm sure the Premier League, if they wanted to, they could certainly have a look at them too. Let's have a look. In terms of this here, so I'll save some of these comments because they are quite good in terms of the results that we'll get into. As for City, until there are sanctions, I can't say too much. You know, I hear what you're saying, Brush, but we definitely know the issues that they've been doing in terms of sponsorships, and how they get their money and how they generate their revenue. Guys, do we even know any City? Unless you really live in Manchester, there's not many City fans about. And I'm asking you guys who are all from around the world. There's certainly not many around in the West Midlands, I can tell you that for sure. And those in America, be interested to hear, because don't really see many. You see quite a few on YouTube now, but compared to how much Arsenal, even Wolves, they've got big fan bases and big subscriber bases on YouTube, and because Wolves are what a big club as well, and there's Wolves fans even in America that you see too. When you see the Premier League fanfares and whatnot, so imagine, and they're earning more in commercial revenue than Manchester United. Are you joking? But yeah, what was you gonna say, bro?
Nothing. I think we're all guilty of seeing the sports washing and just letting it wash over us. I think when you look at the City, what Newcastle are doing now, what a lot of clubs are doing. I mean, they're all owned by people that would have done something to someone in the past. But then you go look at they're regenerating this, they're doing this kids group, and they're all amazing things. But it is all just to cover up the fact that the money is coming from places it shouldn't be. And Barcelona and Real Madrid have done that for years as well. Let's not forget. I mean, Real Madrid every now and again, when they're in trouble, just sell their training ground to the state, and then the state just give it back to them. It's the unfortunate side of football, isn't it? We all love it, but you kind of have to take the rough with the smooth, don't you? Sometimes, and I think the only way to uphold the integrity of the Premier League and for it to keep being the best league in the world in terms of why we've just discussed it is there has to be some kind of example made of Man City and or Chelsea down the line and anyone else that's breached these rules.
Yeah, spot on. Absolutely, bro. It was getting out of hand, and you're seeing it with the transfers, guys, how much it was getting out of hand. And there's a lot of football fans now that me and Ed know that are sick of it now, the Premier League, and would much rather enjoy watching league. Like when I'm not even talking League One football, I'm talking Vanarama National League, because of the purity it is down there, and how when I say purity in terms of how the game is played there, and the organic feel. And there's definitely issues down there as well, political issues. But yeah, it's just not the business of the Premier League and how it's really turned out to be. And you know, City finding ways through the City group and whatnot has been lauded and said it's clever. But if it's another way to impact revenue and whatnot, then obviously it's not fair. And if City aren't sanctioned, then how is that fair, says Matt. I do agree right there. Rolling in the play says, I don't think anything will happen to City. I don't know, man. I think there's mixed feelings on this in the chat, and I can understand why you're saying that. But I also see 4 years of investigating. They ain't going to let this go down for nothing, for a little slap on the wrist, I don't think. Look at Everton. Yes, we've spent like muppets over the years, but how can we be slapped around by FFP, but Chelsea and City can do what they want? True, you've been restrained by FFP this season, as you've seen in the summer, too, because you were trying to abide by the rules, and yeah, how you spent that was obviously with your mismanagement, but even then you're still abided by the rules, as far as we know. Unless the Premier League came out of nowhere and then so who knows? I don't mind it. I really don't mind it, and how they're taking this approach, because it's needed to. And ironically, and I said it earlier on, it's when just as soon as the independent regulators were having a meeting as well, weren't they? So
yeah, I think the timing of all of these things is. We all know why it's happening now, and why it's all coming out now. And it's probably taken 4 years because it needs to be spot on before it gets released.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. But guys, big up to each and every one of you that are locked in here. We will just move it on and talk about the football, and yeah, it is big news, of course, and keep chatting about it in the comments. I'll keep looking through. And yeah, we'll talk about now their game that they did play, as it's been a terrible weekend for Manchester City, in all honesty. Losing 1-0 to Spurs from that Harry Kane record-breaking goal. City, can I just say, they were poor in that game. They didn't, apart from that Mahrez shot that hit the bar, they didn't look like scoring at all. Spurs were able to play their game, and they obviously they had a spring in their step given the news of Antonio Conte and his recovery, and I heard that he's doing well. It was only keyhole surgery, which is good. So they were spurred on by that. But it was a very good performance from Spurs, but managed it easily, and they were comfortable throughout, in all honesty. They were comfortable out of possession, and Manchester City weren't able to create any chances. And man, this is why Manchester City, and this is why so many Arsenal fans are confident of beating Manchester City at the Emirates in next week Wednesday's game, and even beating them in the title race. I think that Manchester City, they'll be closer to and when I say closer to Manchester United, they may even be below them by the end of the season if they continue like this. Manchester United are a better outfit. I think City, they can always score more goals, and you've seen that with the goal difference and the amount of goals that they've scored. But defensively, Man United are a better side. even as a team, cohesively, they're a better side. And that's why I'm looking at Man City, and there's definitely something not right. De Bruyne on the bench, Gundogan, who is very good in these games, and he's got an excellent record against Spurs, and he's one that you would hope and rely on in midfield. Diaz not coming into the side, and he's been sat on the bench for a while, and then we also know what happened with Cancelo. Bro, what was your thoughts on that game, and how Manchester City are on the pitch at the moment?
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything to your analysis. I think Spurs were good. They controlled the game, took that chance from the mistake at the back. Harry Kane does what Harry Kane does, and probably should have scored more. I think it's bizarre sometimes. He looks like he doesn't want to score because he'd rather score the perfect goal or something else. But Man City on the pitch haven't been right, have they? Despite the fact that they're second in the league and pushing, and everyone every week when we do the preview show, throws down 5-6. They haven't truly, despite how many goals Haaland scored, they're not truly in the full flow. There's been players on the bench. That you scratch your head even for Pep Roulette and FPL. You look and you go, why isn't he playing him, or why isn't he playing, this player, that player? And it's even worse this year. And I'd imagine even the squad are probably thinking they have no idea who he's going to be playing. And you hear all the rumours about Cancelo and how he wasn't, pulling the same way as the rest of the team off the pitch. It doesn't look good on and off the pitch. And, you say that with all the caveats of Haaland's on his, on the way to break Dixie Dean's record, and they're ridiculously good at getting the ball in the back of the net. But, he's not played Mahrez for most of the season. Bernardo Silva sat on the bench. Like you've talked about, De Bruyne has been on the bench. Out of nowhere, Rico Lewis is the new biggest thing, and no one had heard of him 6 weeks ago. You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel right, does it? And it's whether Pep's reached his limit, whether Pep's reached his ceiling with this Man City team. It is the longest he's ever been at a club. Yeah. So whether that's something into it as well, I don't know. City fans will know more, but it doesn't look right from when I've seen them, and that's with the ridiculous caveat of the fact they're still second.
Yeah, exactly that, bro. Spot on. And I agree with everything that you said there. And just on the Haaland point, me and you have spoken about this on our show and off the show a lot. And we've kind of not really gone into much depth about it because we probably always have so many other games to talk about on the Premier League preview show. But this Haaland factor, Manchester City are easily a worse side, a worse team with Haaland, and it's not Haaland's fault, and it's not Haaland on a personal level. It's just about how this team is playing around this striker. We've seen it at Arsenal. We've seen it at Manchester United. Man United always the best example. Look at last season, Ronaldo and the quality that he had. 18 goals at the age of 37? Brilliant. Much worse side with him in the team than when they had Martial, Rashford, Bruno, and how it impacted their game, because they're not ready yet to build. They don't have. They've not, for one, Pep, how this team's been built, hasn't been built to play with a number 9 as a focal point and someone who's going to run in behind and just be a goal machine. They've played with a number 9 that's excellent in the link-up play, excellent in the hold-up play, and also creates a lot for other players in and around them, whether that's a Kevin De Bruyne in at false 9, a Gabriel Jesus, or even a Phil Foden who's roaming in and around there, Bernardo Silva, etc. And with Sterling in out wide, I also think that's an issue too. They don't really have much pace out on the width. So I don't think Man City are as dangerous in transition anymore. Other than Haaland, he's the only one who's really got that pace in behind to scare. But out wide, although Jack Grealish has stepped it up this season, I think he's improved. But even then, it's easy to get back into their shape. And most teams are going to sit back against Manchester City and not be worried about that pace from the wide areas. And then defensively, Nathan Ake, for me, he was their best player at the back yesterday. And it's another thing, and as you said about Rico Lewis, it seems to be a lot of the players who are fairly new or haven't been given an opportunity or who weren't starting of late or in the recent years. They're the ones who are really shining right now in a City shirt. And it does kind of seem to me that maybe they're, familiarity breeds contempt with a lot of these players. And it's hard to keep going and keep pushing and keep listening to the same voices and the same, and from Pep Guardiola. And, you know, we all know, we all experience it in life. Like, you know, marriage, for example, when you first get married, it's great. And you got that honeymoon period, for example. And then the little things that you found cute when you was first together, it kind of gets a bit annoying afterwards. And that happens. And I think that's why Alex Ferguson once again deserves praise and in regenerating his sides, and Pep Guardiola usually takes a sabbatical at this time of the year, or this time in his managerial reign, the longest time he's been at a club. Fair play to him, but he definitely needs to regenerate his side, and he's going through a transition at the moment. Not as bad, he's not as bad as Jurgen Klopp, but he definitely needs to make a change, and he signed that extension. Of course, we'll see if he is able to do it. And just a quick word on Spurs, bro. What was your thoughts on them, and do you think they are going to make a late run for the Champions League spots next season? For next season?
No. There's a quick word. No, I don't. I still see them as a disjointed half and half team. No, I don't. I think they still have too many ricks in them. That defense is still too shaky for me. Harry Kane, you know, if he trips up the stairs going, you know, something, they are literally without goals. I think there's too much riding on them. No, I don't. I see the top four as it is now being the top four. I don't see them pushing for it. And I think the teams above them are more consistent and have more depth. Personally, and I agree with you with what you said about United earlier. I see them having more of a push and be more in this title race than Newcastle, in particular in this top where we are now with the top four, top five.
Yeah, exactly. I hear what you're saying, my bro. I do indeed. Let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the comments about this. About Manchester City, Tottenham yesterday. We've got plenty of comments here, people. I really do appreciate it. I forgot to say, I have a PS5 now, and I love the controller. Big up yourself, Peony. On one, guys, and the reason why I'm laughing, and Peony said this, on one of the first watch-alongs, early days in the channel, I dropped a controller, and it made Peony laugh, and I nearly lost myself because it was a PS5 one at that too. So I was scared. But big up yourself. Relegate City, and a points deduction won't harm them. Mahrez getting taken off was odd still. Yeah, Kendall, good point, because he was one of their most threatening players, especially in that first half. Kind of wasn't getting into it in the second at the start, but no one in a City shirt was. I thought that was odd. Did you see that? Did you notice that, Ed, when Mahrez was taken off?
But I think, to quote my quote on Thursday night, the football pervert that is Pep Guardiola can sometimes do weird things, and it's completely out of context to everything else. So yeah. I think Kendall might be right. It is weird, but at the time, I just thought he'd seen something that no one else does because that's what he does.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think in hindsight, it was very strange. I thought when you said he was I think he was the most attacking threat they had.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Very much so. And he obviously crashed the crossbar, and City did have a shot on target in the second half. I know there was a long period where they didn't. And I know Haaland certainly didn't get a shot on target throughout the whole game, and that says a lot. And that says a lot in terms of how they struggle away from home to really get Haaland into the games. At home, I think it's fine, and Manchester City are good at that. But the last time he scored was away from home, was at Leeds. And of course, we'll get on to Leeds a bit later and their situation. And Man United were able to keep him quiet in that game, and I expect Arsenal to as well next week. But Amy says here, Emerson Royale has been amazing lately. That game, that's the best I've seen from Emerson Royale, and he was kind of playing in an inverted role, which you're seeing a lot of fullbacks from doing nowadays. And it was a really good old-fashioned fullback to winger battle between him and Grealish. Grealish got the beating of him a couple of times, and he got the beating of Grealish a couple of times, winning tackles. It was really refreshing to see two players that were on their game and in that 90 minutes really giving a good battle. Do you agree there, bro?
Yeah, and I think athletically, I don't think anyone's ever questioned Emerson Royal. It's more the technical and mental abilities. But like you say, it was a good old fashioned battle between a winger and a fullback. It was enjoyable. I thought Grealish was quite good actually. He's still very very slow and adds to City's more slow build up. But I felt he was dangerous and a little bit more forward thinking in this game from what I saw.
Exactly. Indeed. Rich saying, "Hey, what's that about marriage and why is it true?"
I did want to say disclaimer: Tariq is only speaking for any marriage he may or may not have been in, which he hasn't, and he does not speak for everyone on the panel right now.
exactly that right there. Indeed. So yeah, big up yourself, John, in the place as well, and everyone else that's locked in. As we move on into the next fixture, and of course it'll have to be Everton versus Arsenal. I didn't actually get to catch this game live. Those of you that watched,
you're welcome.
Premier League preview show, because I was being a panda at a birthday party for Jacob, my nephew Ed's son, right there. So, but I did watch it back afterwards. I watched the whole of the first 45, and we kind of watched bits of the second half when we was there, and I watched the highlights of the second half. And all I've got to say is Everton, fantastic. I think it was a perfect storm in that sense. And in terms of Arsenal not quite being at their game, not quite being at the level, but Everton proving why this Premier League is the best league in the world by putting in a really excellent performance defensively. They deserve the win. They created chances. They arguably should have scored more goals. Calvert-Lewin, I thought our centre backs dealt with him quite well in the long balls that they tried to play forward and direct. Saliba and Gabriel were quite good there, but then midfield, Onana, Doucouré, Gay worked hard, and I think that Sean Dyche is going to do work wonders with them, and especially with Onana, when I spoke about him, because he has been linked with Arsenal, I don't think he's good enough technically. I don't think he's got the good technical ability or passing to play in a ball-dominant side, but in a hard-working side that's going to be direct and forward, and those late runs into the box that he can make and really be the support for the striker, I think he's going to be fantastic. The running and the passion that he showed, it's going to be perfect. And Everton overall were just outstanding. Tarkowski and Cody. Ed, you know so much about Cody. You've spoken a lot about him in terms of what he's going to give you. Just Mr. Consistency right there. And then Mikalenko, brilliant against Saka. How they lined up against Bukayo Saka, getting really tight to him with two players. Once Saka rolls off of his man and getting another player in there for support. It will be the tactical management, I thought, from Dyche was excellent, and they executed it well. And just as when Arsenal were getting into control of that game, they got that corner, they scored. So everything was perfect for them. And Arsenal, just from an Arsenal perspective, before I let Ed go on this, is we weren't good. We were sloppy with our passes. We seemed to struggle in terms of on the pitch as well, watching a few passes bobble, and we weren't, and that Everton made it difficult for us from on and off the pitch in terms of that, and they really used that crowd as well and the energy to spur them on. And I thought there was moments where we should have done better in the final third with Ødegaard in particular, when Eddie, the only time that we really saw Eddie work it out wide, is get down on that left, cut it back for Ødegaard, who got right under beneath it and ballooned it over. So, yeah, we needed one of them to go in. And just the last thing before I go, I let Ed go on this, is I think that was definitely a penalty. But, hey, I'm not going to complain too much because we've had things go our way, and I hope that we do get other things go our way. And we've had things that haven't. And in this Premier League, you need luck as well to win certain games. And I think Everton deserved that luck through how they played. So yeah, I'm not going to go too much on that. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the Everton game there, bro?
Yeah, I think it's why we love the Premier League, isn't it? It's amazing how the difference a week and a bit of Sean Dyche saying no hats, no stockings, run around a lot. It's obviously much more than that. And Dyche ball is not long ball. It definitely has tactical elements, which is A bit like Jesse Marsch when you say that his accent sort of detracts from some of the sense he did speak at certain times. Dyche often has this label of being a 4-4-2 lump it long manager, and to a certain extent he is. But what he did with that at Burnley was incredible, and how he managed to get everyone already singing from his hymn sheet. He needs to he's got 6 months to sort of sort this out, 4 months, sorry, to sort this out. And he's only going to do that right now with hard work. He can't come in and change to a tiki-taka inverted wing backs system with the players he's got. You just said there are 3 midfielders there. If you call them Jack Cork, they're Dyche footballers, aren't they? They're hard working. They're in at your heels. If you watch the match of the day coverage, that shows you the pressing and how everyone went. And it's interesting to see those contrasting styles. And I think just quickly on Arsenal, it was a bad day at the office. And teams have this. Man United fans, you watched in the 90s when they weirdly lost to Southampton 6-3. And other times you have moments at the on a Saturday or a Sunday where the stars don't align for your team, despite the fact that you're better probably man for man. Connor Cody clears one off the line. Saka managed to get it past Pickford and it was blocked on the line. It's just what happens. I don't think you can read into it too much.
Yeah.
If you do that, that's where the cracks start to appear, and then it's, oh no, what if we don't? What if we do this again next week? What if we do it again in 2 weeks' time? Man City is still coming after us, all that kind of stuff. You need to sort of put that aside and just say that's happened.
Yeah.
And Ketty could have done better with his chance in the first half.
Yeah.
Saka cleared one off the line. Ødegaard, I don't quite know how he got it so high when it didn't seem like he was leaning back.
Yeah.
But that's just what happens in those games. That could have easily been 2 or 3-0 to Arsenal, or it could have easily been 2 or 3-0 to Everton with the chances that Calvert-Lewin and Decore had, for example. So it's just a bad day at the office.
And another football cliche, that's where the first goal is so important as well. Everton, perfect timing to get it. Didn't get it too early, got it at the right time where just as it begins to tire, and it gave them the energy to hold on in the end. Roland's question here, and I'll let you go at this one, Ed. Question for you guys. If Everton survive, will Dyche be a long-term appointment even under the backdrop of uncertain ownership? What's your thoughts on that, Ed?
I see Dyche as a long-term manager. I don't see him as someone like Sam Allardyce that became after Bolton, where he kind of parachutes in for a bit and goes away again, normally doing okay, but not pulling up trees. Dyche is one to get his system, to get his players in, to get his philosophy, and to get there's a pub named after him in Burnley. So, he's not the kind of manager that you would see popping in and popping out again. But I think the loaded part of that question is the uncertain hierarchy at Everton, where they can't even turn up to games. You have to question whether that's some, a working environment you want to be around, I guess. I guess it's how important Dyche wants to manage, how important he wants to be there, because you can work around that as a manager and make the most of, he didn't have a big budget at Burnley, so he had to work with that. So maybe with this, it'll just be he can't get in the players that he thinks he wants at Everton because of this strange hierarchy that they have, and he'll make the most of what he's got there as well. He could easily do that, I guess, if he feels the connections to the fans and to the city like he did with Burnley, then yes, I can see him being there long term, regardless of the hierarchy.
Yeah, and that's where I was just going to take it over from there in terms of the hierarchy. He worked very well on a much limited budget at Burnley and a limited recruitment style at Burnley too. And I think that would be perfect. And the best way to look at it, guys, is David Moyes, an absolute legend there, was able to stay there for the long term. Don't think Dyche will be there as that long because just football doesn't seem to be like that anymore in terms of that style in managers staying that long. But the Everton faithful do like that, and they do like to be and create that siege mentality. And that's where I think Everton have been at their best. I don't think beautiful, fluid football is, of course, every team wants that, but Everton aren't snobs in terms of, the Tottenham way. Have a little dig at Spurs and even West Ham fans where they say, we need to play the West Ham way. They've kind of settled for it a little bit with David Moyes and him getting results there. I think Everton are definitely humble enough and realize that, if we can be a hated team or a team that's not really liked, like Burnley were, they can build off that and they feed off that energy, and the fans are a lot more passionate, as you'd say, and football focused in at Liverpool, given their rivals also there. And I think he can really build from that. And Everton, in terms of their recruitment, and to answer your question, Roland, Dyche can work with championship players. It's just as long as the players are humble enough and willing to work hard. And I think he'll really develop some of these. And Onana, I think he'll have his best time under a Sean Dyche than he would under a Frank Lampard, given the profile of players in and around. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, aerial threat, hold-up player, seems perfect to Dyche, really. And you look at it, and when I was assessing it, I was assessing it quite wrong on the preview show, guys. When you look at it, the players, there's some former Dyche players in there, Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil, who connected for the goal, but they do suit his style and his game, and especially that midfield when I look at it, because they're not the most technically, passing, get the ball down, let's spray it around. They're going to fight, they're going to challenge, and they're going to make it difficult on that small pitch. So, yeah. As Amy says here, seems like an interim manager for Everton put a spark into his squad. Mate, I don't know. I'm not too sure. But, hey, the one thing that, as Ed did say, you never know with their ownership in that sense. Vibes here saying the overreaction from some Arsenal fans was crazy. Heard them say the league is over. Hey, Vibes, we were arguably one of the most hysterical fan bases out there. I was completely calm about it. Helps that I didn't watch it live and I didn't really get into the emotions of it as much. But come on, I'm sure, and a lot of these fans, as Ed was saying, Southampton, Man United in the 90s, even when we was invincible, the difference was we drew those games. We had plenty of them. I remember towards the end, Portsmouth in that one. Man,
is that the one when Robert Pires dived? Or?
Yeah. Where we got away with it there. Should have lost. But you get these in a season, and Man City had it even last season with Crystal Palace. Couldn't even get past
4
them.
points.
4 points. So, and this is a bogey ground for us, and it is a hard place to go to when it is rocking and when they are playing well. And it's the second time in 2 seasons where we've given their rejuvenated Everton, but I'm all right with it, man. And I think we're going to have another one, at least another one of these. Hopefully not too many, not more than 2, but another one before the season ends, and we'll just not be on our day. Maybe we may win that one. We had it in the first half of the season against Leeds. We won that one, and we forget about it. We move on when Leeds were a much better side. This time, Everton won it, but that didn't cost us the league then. So, yeah, man. And Man City and Man United had it recently, even against Aston Villa. And Man United completely that was looking like Man United of last season, but they were able to bounce back and move on. It's all about the reaction and not from the team, not from the overreaction from the fans. What were you going to say, bro, on that?
No, nothing. I think Arsenal fans, they don't like the banter club moniker that they've been given at times, but then reacting like that and getting Edu out and all the other things trending on Twitter is going to add to that, isn't it? And I think, like I said on the preview show, everything currently is set up for this Arsenal team to be where it is right now. You've not looked into it after 20 games or whatever, you know what I mean? You're there on merit. And I just think losing one game, especially when City hadn't played, and even if City got something out of it, they're still 2 points, 3 points behind, depending on how well they did. And you've still got to play them twice. That is, you start talking to me then. If they beat you twice, then the concern needs to come out. But again, it needs to be measured. But right now, you're 5 points clear with a game in hand, right?
Exactly, with a game in hand.
Just chill out a bit.
Mm-hmm. Just chill out and relax and let the football do the talking. Sean Dyche has gravy and concrete smoothie before the game kicks off. He does with that Sean Dyche voice, I can't even do it, man. It hurts. Like pulling teeth to get some gooners agree we're winning this thing. Yeah, it is. It's all the pay. I understand why they are reluctant to say we're going to win it, because we have been in these positions, not playing this well, and this is why I enjoy listening to Ed talk about it, because we feel it emotionally. Whether you let yourself get a little bit carried away with it, or you be a bit hesitant, Ed's able to look at it, and other fans as well, like you guys in the chat, are able to say, "Now, Arsenal are the real deal. You're gonna win it." And yeah, I appreciate that, because I listen to him, because it is easy to feel pessimistic or get carried away with it. You know what I mean? As the emotions get involved. Some of them would rather see you fail so they can say they were right about Arteta. Indeed. Pride comes into it, of course. Moss saying here, Tariq remembering matches when he was a toddler. It's amazing. Hey, I remember it because I was watching it on VHS afterwards, on DVDs and videos. So yeah, I had at one point when I was in primary school, I got given a load of DVDs and video recordings of the season reviews. I did my research. I spent hours watching them. And let's have a look. We got anything else, or should we move on into the next game? And do you know what? I think this question helps us move on into it as well. Question to the panel: is Man United a dark horse for the title, and should their fans expect it? Ed, that Man United Crystal Palace game, what was your thoughts on that one there?
It's similar to how you just talked about the Leeds game for Arsenal. Yeah. It's a team near the top of the league playing a team in the middle. Comfortable. Palace looked dangerous, especially after the red card, but picking up the 3 points. It's what Man United were famous for under Fergie. Whether they're in the title race, I don't know. I still think there's still a slight separation between the points on the board and the performances sometimes can be lacking, but very much not recently. But yeah, Arsenal, Man City should not be sleeping on them. They should be looking over their shoulders to make sure that there's the degrees of separation are still there. Like I said, I see United more than Newcastle making this a 3-horse race, but right now I'd say it's a 2.5.
Yeah, I understand. And I think they'll be watching the Arsenal game versus Manchester City with intrigue in terms of how both teams perform in this one, as the temperature starts to heat up for Arsenal and for Manchester City, if they are going to get a reaction. If Arsenal are able to win it, I think Arsenal, if we can get 3 points out of these Manchester City games, even 2 points, if we grab 2 points, that means we draw both, and that means City can't gain on in those fixtures. But if Arsenal get 3 points, that's it for me. Doesn't really, unless we have a complete capitulation, which I don't see it happening in terms of how this team's building, and I don't see Man City making up the points. So I think the best case would be for Man United is a draw, and Man United just keep building it one game at a time. And that's how I'm trying to look at it from an Arsenal fan too, and it's hard to, because it's easy to get carried away when you're lying down at bed at night thinking about the parade and trying to think in what days I might have to book off work for it and whatnot. But yeah, one game at a time. Man United, you've got a big bunch of games coming up. 7 games before the final, is it? And whilst Newcastle have to play 3 with a small squad, 2. And then even then, we've still got games to pile up on in the second half and the latter a part of the season too, where we've still got games to add into there and fixtures. It's going to be a tough period for Man United. So one game at a time, that's what they have to look for. As Amy says here, I think Man U are the dark horse if Rashford does not get hurt. Yeah, Amy, I do see what you're saying, and they're going to have, as every title-winning team does, and at any point, they're going to have a lot of luck keeping their key players fit, like a Rashford and whatnot. and the form he's in is ridiculous. He's got to be, he's got to be up there for PFA Player of the Year, hasn't he, bro? Early contenders.
Oh, definitely, because it's also it's the output as well, isn't it? The output's ridiculous right now as well. It's not just the performances; it's the actual, on the score sheet you'll see his name as an assister or as the goal scorer right now. He's an unbelievable, form, and he looks right again, doesn't he? He played unwell, unfit under Solskjaer. He's grabbing this chance now with both hands, isn't he? He was good in the World Cup as well. Let's not forget he's been on a tear really for the last 4 or 5 months, and I think his stats are ridiculous at the minute. Is it like something like 10 goals in 15 games or something stupid, and only like 8 in the 50 before? The contrast in where he was, 6-7 months ago to now is incredible. And I think credit goes to Ten Hag with all of this, because right now we're having this discussion whether they're in this title race or not, when I think even the most optimistic of Man United fans would say they're ahead of schedule when they rebuild.
Definitely, indeed. Man United and Arsenal and maybe Brighton playing the best ball, and Brentford hot too. We've got a battle on our hands here, massive. We can't overlook Brentford as well. That's why it's important to look into that game, and we will do for the Premier League preview show. But got to agree in terms of Man United and Arsenal, some of the football that Man United play, and they will get to a point where they'll be able to sustain it for a majority of the 90 minutes, but they're doing it in sprints and spurts at the moment, and for good periods of the game. And the second goal against Palace, that was wonderful. Of course, there's ways to look at it from a Palace perspective, how they can do better, but there's not much you can do when they're spraying the ball like that, one touch, progressing it. And that's, as Ed said there, Eric Ten Hag, they've got some, Man United weren't as bad as how they performed last season. It told you so much more about the mentality and so much about the squad at that point rather than their actual ability. They've got Champions League winners, got left, right, and centre in there. So, brilliant, Manchester United at the moment. Brighton certainly up there too. Sean says, "Lol, you're asking for too much, don't you think, T?" Hey, no, man, just a Premier League title, and I'm fine. I'll take that, and I'll be happy. Let's have a look. Santi says, if Pep walks before the 15th, then the title race is over, in my opinion. Maybe, but if Arsenal beat Pep on the 15th, I think a lot of people will say that, because what's that, 8 points with a game in hand? I can't. It's this City team. It's maybe City team. Well, definitely City teams of the past. This City team aren't going to be able to climb over 11 points if we was to win our game in hand. Big one here. Kendall saying here, United are not in a title race, and if we are, it's a false title race like 2 years ago. I like how United fans are being quite calm about it and looking at the situation right now. They're not in there, but the situation could turn and they could be in one, of course. But right now they're just focusing on top 4, which is the sensible way to look at it. But let's talk about now, Ed, the real reason why you're here. The big reason in the mighty Wolves beating Liverpool by 3-0. Before we talk about the mess about Liverpool, talk to me about Wolves. Since Julian Lopetegui's been brought in, the feeling around the club, the new recruits that's been brought in, and the football that you're seeing. Talk to me, bro. What's your thoughts on that and this game?
It's chalk and cheese, isn't it? He's come in, J-Lo. He's come in, and he came in. You were at the game, Wolves Arsenal. We lost that game. He walked around the pitch like a rock star, clapping everybody. He's gone big straight in on. He obviously came with some kind of agreement of the money that he'll be given to spend. We picked up some cheap players as well. Dawson, Sarabia both played brilliantly. Cost less than 8 million between them. He's brought in. We've done our own buy now, pay later on a couple of players as well. Even Traore got an assist at the weekend. So I think we played really well. And whether or not it was 2-0 or 3-0 because Klopp says the third goal doesn't count. He's just come in and changed. He's just come in and changed the system. And I was confident before we even sort of turned this around and started signing people, because I was just confident that we had the right man at the wheel. Because the previous manager just wasn't up to scratch. He wasn't a good manager. His tactics were great, but not for the players he had. He was just the wrong man at the wrong time, I think, for me personally. And I think the other thing as well is that this Wolves team weren't intimidated by the names on that opposition. And that is what Liverpool are right now, because they're not in a good place. They are just a bunch of names that would look good on FIFA.
Yeah.
But not in reality right now. Robertson was pinned back for most of the game. Trent was barely ventured over the halfway line when you watch the whole game. And, we took our chances at the start, and the defending for the first 2 goals is Sunday League level. And it's not what you imagine a Liverpool team to be in. Klopp has come out and not covered himself in glory with the silly things he's been saying. But it's a Wolves side on the up. It's a Wolves side making the most of having to get the checkbook out to make sure we stay in the league. And it's really different now. I mean, just a quick one, even our goal music's gone. Lopetegui wants the fans' chants and roars to come through, and not some awful Wolverhampton-based grime artist. Yeah, so he's changing everything. He's getting that connection with the fans, and when you've got a manager that has the connection with the fans, even if it's just sort of because he's better than the last man, that means a lot to a fan base, especially a team like Wolves, because we know what we are. We're a mid-level Premier League team at best that sort of everyone has a bit of a soft spot for, because we have some good players like Ruben Neves and other players like that. So, yeah, and I was relatively confident of at least getting a point against Liverpool at the weekend. And I think that says everything. If you watch the preview show, I haven't been that confident for, a year.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And with Ruben Neves as well, me and you were speaking about him yesterday, and man, we seem to forget about these players and whatnot because they're not quite in the news, or because Wolves haven't performed as well. This guy is phenomenal. I remember from the very first time that I saw him live, I was like, this guy is the best player I've ever seen play for Wolves. I've seen Wolves play in League One, Championship, and you've seen plenty more than me, being a former season ticket holder. I just want to hear your thoughts on Ruben Neves, man, and let the people know how good he is.
Yeah, there's not a team in the world that he wouldn't fit into. He's the best player that's ever played for my club that I've seen. There will be older Wolves fans that will remember when we were brilliant 50 odd years ago, but he's the best player I've ever seen in a Wolves shirt, and one of the best players I've ever seen in the flesh, in all honesty. His range of passing, his reading of the game is just, it's otherworldly at times. And he could, part of me wants him to stay in the Premier League just so I get to see him every week when he leaves, because he will leave, because he shouldn't have been at my club for as long as he has been, and it's been a bit of a privilege to watch him, really. He's come in like a few of the Portuguese lads and genuinely made Wolverhampton his home, which, again, when you talk about the connections to the fans that you have, I mean, I'm not from Wolverhampton, but, I'm local to there, so you kind of know that if they're genuinely interested or not, and it's been amazing to watch him play, and it's been amazing in a weird way, and a privilege to watch him play for my team, because we don't have players like this very often. So when we get them, we're going to appreciate them.
Definitely, 100%. And he, as Ed said earlier on in that, he could play for anyone. Don't get it twisted, guys. Seriously, he's that good. Whenever I've seen him play live, he's always been one of the best players on the pitch. He's outshone Partey whenever I've seen him, and I love Thomas Partey to bits. But in terms of his vision, how he reads the game too, and how he has a proper understanding of where to be and where players and where his teammates are, and the passes he can play are out of this world, guys. So yeah, be wonderful player. And we have to speak on Liverpool quickly as well. In Liverpool, we spoke about them plenty of times and their fall off and how poor they have been. And I think Vibes said, I know it wasn't Vibes, it was King saying it here. I know Liverpool have been hit with major injuries, but the players that they put out there should perform much better than what they're doing right now. And it is another case of, as an extreme case of what we spoke about with Pep Guardiola. The players' legs are shot. The men mentally not at it anymore as a team, and I don't think it's anything really falling out. We may see more may come out of it, but it doesn't seem like a falling out between players. It's just that players at a point in their career where they're physically and mentally not at the level required anymore, and where a rejuvenation of the squad and in the spine is needed, whether that's at defense. Remember, a lot of people were telling me that Joel Matip's better than Van Dijk. What I saw from that performance there, that was shocking. That was awful. Gomez, horrible defending for the second goal. The midfield, Stefan Bajcetic is in there, and he's looked decent, but you can see he's raw and inexperienced and losing possession. Was it for the third goal? Martinho dispossessing him there, and then that spine is nowhere near as what it was even last year, and Petey called it, and it's something, chasing the 4 trophies right until the end seems to be the biggest factor in that, and mentally fatigue and the physical effect that is caused on them. So anything that you like to add in terms of Liverpool's demise there, bro, before we move on?
I think just one quick point is, I think I've said this to you either in a stream previously or definitely when we've chatted Liverpool. I just think chasing this City team and their illegal dealings for the last 4 or 5 seasons and trying to stay ahead of them, getting through COVID. Klopp's obviously dropped the ball with the midfield, and I think he realised that. And he, even for someone like Klopp, who doesn't really admit anything, admitted that he dropped the ball there. But I just think this is a culmination of 3, 4, 5 seasons of fighting on 4 fronts nearly every year and having to be the only team to give any kind of opposition to this Man City team, this Man City machine that it has been. And I think it's all hit them this year. That's what I think.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree. And I don't see him making a comeback, and it might be a 10th, 11th season for them. And they got Everton next, and we'll talk more about that. And Everton are the favourites going into Anfield for me, and that says a lot. Maybe a derby, form goes out the window, as the cliche says. I don't actually think it does. But we'll wait and see. And we'll talk more about that. But just before we go and kind of wrap up a little bit, we have to talk about the Jesse Marsch situation at Leeds. Leeds sack Jesse Marsch after a 1-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest. They're right in it, and Ed's having a look around because he's Wolves side are in and around that relegation spot. They're looking for a new manager now. Carlos Corberán, who's done an excellent job he did a fantastic one at Huddersfield, taking them to the playoff final, took over from Steve Bruce at West Brom, and he's done really well there, got him playing some good football and raising that squad and raising that team back up the table. Bro, do you think it was the right decision to get rid of Jesse Marsch?
I think it's strange to do it now after the window's closed.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm thinking. I don't know whether there's a little bit of bias because he is American. Part of me always thinks that because when he talks, with the accent he's got, it never seemed as legitimate, and that's probably just racism, really, on my part. Stereotyping, well, this guy doesn't know because, we all remember the Soccer AM jokes of multi-ball and all the other stuff that, we used to joke about. But, he came with a good CV, but something somewhere isn't clicking right now, is it? And you can't change the players. Sometimes you just have to change the manager, which is what they did to bring him in with Bielsa. So whether or not I think the timing's strange, but the decision's probably correct. But the timing, it might come back to bite them, because I think now you are forcing a team without sort of that identity, because I think he's still trying to get that identity. The one thing Everton have with Dyche is that the players that are there, as we talked about, they suit his philosophy.
Yeah.
Whoever it is that comes in next has got to work with what's left, and what's left is a lot of Championship players with a few up and coming stars like Nonto and Tyler Adams, and getting those to mesh is going to be more difficult for me than the Everton job.
Exactly. I totally agree with you there. And it's going to be interesting. And the relegation dogfight, I think this is going to be the best one we've seen in a long time, because it is quite tight in there around the bottom. And just a quick run through the results and some of the key things that I noticed, and then we'll ask Ed if he's got anything that he wants to say on these. Chelsea Fulham on Friday night. I thought Enzo was fantastic. Mudryk off the ball. That's why he was taken off at half time, because he's not at that Premier League level off the ball, or just not in this Chelsea side yet. Fulham, though, massive credit to them. They are a serious side, well organised. Marco Silva, his stock keeps rising for me. Aston Villa, Leicester. Villa having some teething problems. The Emery teething problems that we see when he tries to play out the back with players that just can't do it. Seeing Arsenal concede many goals like that. And Leicester, they're up and down season. They regain form as soon as Maddison comes back. No surprise there. Brentford smashed Southampton. Brentford are a serious team as well. They are very much under the radar. And I really do hope that Ivan Toney can stay there in and around that squad for the majority of the season, because Brentford could have a special season for me. Southampton, Nathan Jones, I reckon he's sacked soon, guys. So have you seen his press back?
Weird.
Shocking. I hated watching every moment of that. Like, how can you talk about compromising and talk about being one of the best coaches in Europe? Yeah, he's going
bringing up Luton. He's bringing up Luton to his players. Well done. Do you know what I mean? It's like the fabled stories of David Moyes bringing up Phil Jagielka to Rio Ferdinand, one of the best centre backs has ever graced the Premier League. It's like, why are you telling me that? And he doesn't seem. Yeah, it was a bizarre appointment. It was an appointment that looked like they were ready for the Championship, and he doesn't look like a Championship manager right now.
No, shocking. And that sort of arrogance, and you can't respect that as a player, surely.
No. Throwing your players under the bus. That's why I always had a problem with Bruno Lage as a Wolves fan, because that's what he did week in, week out. He'd throw someone under the bus.
Yeah.
And what did Arteta do this week after a devastating loss? I love these players. I love these players. I'm going to love them more. I'm going to love them more next week. And I'd imagine today's training was probably, here's what you did wrong, here's what you did wrong, here's what you did wrong. This is how we can get better. But that's in-house. You don't. That's what Jose Mourinho became, a parody of himself, didn't he? Telling people he was coaching Luke Shaw through a game. All of a sudden, he's starting to lose that shine of the special one. And this bloke's never been close to that. And he's throwing his players under the bus when they don't need that right now. The bottom of the league.
He's bottom of the league with the youngest squad in the league as well. So, yeah, that's not a way to coach these guys. Brighton winning by 1-0. Late goal from Kyle Matoma again. What a talent he is. Love watching this guy play football. And the fact that he can score headers too. I'm sorry, man. He's looking like he's 35 million. If Arsenal can snap him off, which is being spoken about at the moment, I'm sure he'll be way more than that. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other clubs sniffing around too. Brighton keep marching on. But unfortunate for Bournemouth in a way, because, I think they might be able to. I still think they're getting relegated. I still think that, but they've done already a very good job this season so far. I thought they'd have been rock bottom, where Southampton are already cut adrift, but they're not. So maybe we can see a resurgence for Bournemouth. Doubt it. Newcastle West Ham, though, which is the final one that we'll just quickly speak about, is Newcastle. Their lack of goals proving to be the issue for them, I think, right here. And they're very good at the back and defensively. They're the best team in the league, I think, defensively in terms of how they defend. But going forward, I think this could be their stumbling block. And why I think Spurs are still within this top 4 race, guys. goal. We saw it as Arsenal fans, unfortunately, last season. When you've got world-class talents like Harry Kane and goal scorers Kulusevski, and then Danjuma, if he can have an impact, and Pedro Porro will certainly make an impact going forward in the attack. I think Newcastle may just miss out. We'll have to see. It's going to be a long season. But Ed, is there anything else that you wanted to add from those quick rundown of the fixtures?
No. I think if I was to ask you now, Matoma or Mudryk, who would you have picked? Who would you pick?
Instant impact's got to be Matoma.
Yeah, that's what No, I think Bournemouth, and I said it on the previous show, just quickly on Bournemouth. Yeah. If you're ever unsure of the financial power of the Premier League, Bournemouth and their signings they made during the January transfer window, with the pull that they have as a club, relatively speaking to the rest of the league, is minimal, and they're still able to bring in the players they're able to bring in. That just shows you the power and the money that's in the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's true. It's so true, man. Yeah, 35 million, no chance by the looks of it, and they'll certainly ask for more with this Premier League tax. But guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Really do appreciate each and every one of you that's watched, and even if you aren't here but you manage to catch it back later, really do appreciate that. Make sure you do smash a like on the video as well. We will be back later on in the week, guys, and we'll be back with our Premier League preview show where we'll preview the games coming up for the weekend. Arsenal face Brentford. We'll have to do a double one because we've got Manchester City on that Wednesday too. Who are Wolves facing in the weekend, bro?
Southampton.
Southampton. So nice.
I think we've got Southampton, Bournemouth, and Leeds next. Something like that.
So yeah, some 6 pointers right there, and those games you could be talking about a mid-table fight in no time if you're able to go and win them games. What you're in 15th?
9 points, and I'm eyeing up the Conference League.
You're talking to Liverpool there. That's what you're doing. Exactly. But we will get through each and every one of them. And if you haven't watched them, guys, if you haven't watched any of our preview shows, I recommend to hit that notification bell if it works. But yeah, to make sure you do check out and and join the Discord server as well. We'll give you more updates on there if the notification bell doesn't work as well. So really appreciate each and every one of you watching here, guys. Love and respect to you all. Thank you for it, and thank you to my bro Ed as well. Is there any final words that you've got to say or that we might need to add?
No. The predictions league, for those that do the preview show, I'll do that now. The Monday night games out the way. The Sunday's games are out the way. Sorry.
Exactly. Appreciate you all, people. Love and peace, and enjoy the rest of your Monday evening, night, or afternoon, or morning. Take care and peace.